Good afternoon, everybody. I see that we have still people joining, so I propose to wait 1 or 2 minutes for others to join the meeting, so that we can jointly start off with the introday's topic. Okay, let's resume. Welcome everybody to the afternoon session. We are with agenda point 3, intraday capacity calculation and allocation. And I would like to ask Wesley Snoeren to enlighten us a bit on the important milestones and status of the intraday project we are in now. Wesley, could I give the floor to you?
Yes, no problem. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all had a good lunch. Yes, indeed, we've started the ICC project about a year ago. If you compare this intraday capacity calculation process towards the flow-based day-ahead process that we're also designing, it will hopefully go live in the beginning of next year. And we see quite some similarities. First of all, the ICC tool design will be building on the fundamental components of the day-ahead capacity calculation tool. We'll be using the same vendors. Also, we will foresee the use of the UST format at go live, expected in February 2023. With CGMS, of course, remaining as the target model. Delivery will be done in 2 steps. First, computation of the intraday capacity calculation will be performed before 10 o'clock on the day ahead. This will go live in February 2023. And then 1 year later, we will have the second computation or recomputation at 10 o'clock intraday in the morning for the remaining 12 hours of intraday. And this will then go live in February 2024. If you then take a closer look at the roadmap and key milestones, we can see that we are now at the phase that we have a prototype running for the ICC tool, which we are currently using for testing and experimentation. We also have reached the milestone of defining our IT requirements, which are needed to have a minimum viable solution in place. And we are now at the phase of scoping and having a final offer from our IT vendor, which we hope to receive in the end of May, after which the IT vendor can start developing. And then if everything goes well, we will have a minimum viable solution in place ready for internal parallel run in the beginning of October. We foresee the need for at least half a year of internal parallel run before we can reach the status of readiness for an external parallel run. So we expect to be starting the earliest with the external parallel run in the second quarter of next year, which would leave sufficient time for the half-year external parallel run, which is required according to the CCM, and of course the joint integration with the intraday auction and continuous trade platform. And then we go live in February 2023. Any questions on this slide? If not, then indeed we can move to the next. Well, like any project, we have to deal with risks and dependencies. I would like to walk you through the relevant risks and dependencies, also maybe from a market perspective. What we see is that we have to implement quite a tight timeline, and in order to do so, we will maximize the synergy advantages by using as much as possible parts of the day-ahead capacity calculation tool and the NRO, which is also required for the intraday process. But it's not only the timeline for implementation that's tight, it's also the time available to execute the process itself. And in day ahead, we have for this multiple hours on T-2, reaching out also during the night and in the morning of day ahead. For intraday, we have 2 to 3 hours to compute all the capacity for each hour of intraday. So we have to improve the processes and tools to reach the required performance in order to fulfill the whole capacity calculation process in time. And this is quite a challenge, but I have good hopes that we can reach this with our current vendors and reach our milestones. The third point is reaching sufficient input quality for all parties. We are learning also here from the day ahead project that we are focusing on getting as soon as possible an industrialized tool such that we can start the internal parallel run in an early stage. Therefore, have sufficient room to fine-tune the input quality. But at the same time, we also now already started experimentation based on this prototype in order not to lose time and have the possibility to already get acquainted with the intraday capacity calculation process for those TSOs which are not that familiar with a sophisticated intraday capacity calculation process at the moment. And then, of course, there is the question on what will the results bring us. Hopefully, the results will be good, and we can provide more capacity to intraday, which can also be considered safe based on the capacity calculation process followed. But of course, there's also a significant risk that the intraday process could lead to lower capacities, as compared to day ahead, we will not be using any application of minimum RAMs or LTA inclusion. And well, I would like to emphasize this already now in an early stage, that this could have an impact also on the size of the intraday domains. But of course, due to the early start with the experimentation phase, we can gain experience in an early stage and fine-tune the processes such that we can maximize the capacities provided. In terms of dependencies, there are 4 main dependencies that we clarified. One big one is the readiness of NEMOs and the education platform for intraday capacity calculation. For this, we are in alignment with the core joint working group and IDA subgroup responsible for the connection with the intraday auctions platform. And of course, then the subsequent connection towards the continuous trade platform. Concerning the CGMS implementation, well, like I explained before, we would like to stick with USTE format for the first go live in order to avoid this direct dependency on the ENTSO-E CGM program. For the second computation or recomputation, this is yet to be determined. The third dependency here is also one I would like to emphasize. It's the alignment with the future CSA process being developed now by the core ROSC project team. Here we have to manage closely the expectations that the ICC process requires in terms of input and timings in order to receive, for example, the grid models at the right moment in time with the right quality levels. And also to ensure that the meal actions that are coordinated in this CSA process will remain effective also after the provision of intraday capacities to the market. So this is quite a dependency, and we are in a close alignment here also with the ROSC PT under the core umbrella. The final dependency here I listed is the third country integration. It's a topic being discussed now more in the day ahead context, but once they're more as clear, we have to see to which extent we can have also to implement this for intraday. So we monitor the discussions closely to ensure timely involvement. Any questions concerning those clarified risks, dependencies given? Yes, I see a question from Jerome. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Wesley. Regarding what you said, the last bullet points of the risks on the absence of min-RAM or LTA inclusion in intraday, this is broadly understood at the very least for LTA inclusion. But in terms of min-RAM, not related to the CEP itself, but at the moment the CWE TSOs are applying min-RAM in intraday. So does it mean that this will not apply anymore, or that the CWE TSOs will keep their min-RAM, but it will not be applicable throughout the whole core region?
This is not fully clear at the moment. At least the intraday CCM does not require TSOs to apply any level of minimum capacity. But as CWE TSOs, we have to determine and of course agree on the level of minimum capacities that we'd like to provide also in the flow-based ICC process. But I cannot answer this at the moment.
Okay, thank you. I think it'd be good at later occasions when we go back to this question, if the CWE TSOs could provide feedback or at least their expectations regarding the survival or not of the min-RAM they currently apply.
Yeah, of course. Other questions? Okay, well, then I already reached a conclusion slide here. As a recap, then most important topics. IC implementation is on schedule. We have delivery foreseen in 2 steps. So first computation in February 2023 and the second recomputation 1 year later. We'll be building the ICC tool design on the fundamental components of the day-ahead capacity calculation tool to ease the implementation process and to ensure that we can reach the milestones defined. And this would then lead to an early start of the external parallel run, for which we aim to have this started in the second quarter of next year. And then I'd like to emphasize these 2 high impacting main dependencies. The first one, to have a readiness with the allocation platform to support both the intraday auctions, but also continuous trade using the intraday capacity domains. For which also the question is still open whether this is flow-based or ATC-based. And then, of course, the alignment with the future ROS process to ensure that the coordinated renewal actions during ROS can remain effective after making this intraday capacity available to the market. Okay, I'm through my slides. I see one question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Wesley. It's Guillaume from NG. Just a small question. Can you elaborate a bit on the last remark you have made about the allocation of cross-border capacity being ATC based or flow based? And the link with the auctions on one hand side and the continuous trading on the other hand side?
Yes, I can. So at the moment, let me check the details quickly. So what we foresee now is that in January 2023, there's this legal application for the intraday auction to go live based on ATCs. Then 1 month later, we would go live with flow-based ICC. So this would mean that we would need some kind of ATC extraction from the flow-based domain in order to deliver on the intraday auction platform. But on the other hand, in April 2023, flow-based continuous trading is foreseen, and then in August, the intraday auction based on flow-based domains would be is foreseen or should be developed. So yeah, we are still in the debate on how we could in somehow harmonize those timelines in order to not have too many go lives which have impact on other on either the capacity calculation process or the intraday auction or the continuous trade. But to harmonize this in some sense to have clarity on for the market part is also what to expect and what will be delivered. But on the other hand, also for all other stakeholders which need to take into account changes then which can follow each other quite quickly in just a few months of time. And this is not preferred, of course. So we're looking into a solution there.
Just a question. Do you have somewhere current timeline for the calculation and the allocation? Because to me, it's not fully clear. Now, you in the answer to Guillaume's question, you mentioned different go-live date for allocation, so starting with NTC and then flow-based. And I think it's not super easy to see how the link between this and The other deadline mentioned here on the slides with the first computation in Feb 2023 and the second one in 2024.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. This is also information that was also only recently clear to me, so
Okay.
not included in the slides. But
could we foresee that as a follow-up?
Yes, I think so. And maybe it would also be good then if someone from the post-coupling project could introduce this topic in a broader extent. It would be really helpful, I think, also for you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I see one question from Jérôme.
Yes, thank you, Wesley. Just to complement a bit what Hélène just said. So my question is the final objective to have a flow-based allocation of capacity on intraday continuous market?
Yes, it is.
By 2024?
This is foreseen in 2023, according to the timelines that I received from ICC, but I'm not sure to which extent these are.
To me, I would very welcome a bit more details on how it would work to allocate flow-based capacity in a continuous market. I have to admit that a bit difficult to me to see from now on how it could work.
Well, I think the aim is to have the flow-based capacity calculation delivering flow-based domains to intraday auction, which will then be run 2 times at 10 o'clock in the evening, and then a recomputation at 10 o'clock in the morning. And in between, there will be continuous trade on continuous trading platform, which then also would be capable of running these flow-based domains.
Yeah, so I understand for the introduction, it will be quite similar to what is done currently on the day-ahead auction for the allocation, so that I understand. But then to reallocate and recalculate a flow-based domain real time, because every time you're going to have a trade on a continuous market, is going to affect the whole domain and not only an NTC at the moment. So I would be happy to have more details basically on and understand how it could work to have full domain recalculation real time every time a trade is done.
Yeah.
If my understanding is correct.
Well, what we will do is have this flow-based domain only delivered during the intraday auction, at which the continuous trade will be paused for a specific period of time. Then the net position inside this domain will be shifted to the already allocated capacities, and from that moment on, during continuous trade, there will be only a shift of that net position within the flow-based domain. So there will not be any recalculations between the 2 intraday auctions. It's only recalculation of available capacity, but not of the domain itself. Is that clear?
I understand on my side for the auctions, but I think I join Jérôme's question maybe for next meeting.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe this is something for a more detailed discussion, I think.
Yes.
That would be good. Yeah, a good idea. Thank you.
Like maybe with examples and illustration on how it works in a continuous environment. Indeed.
Yep.
There are still questions, I think.
Yeah, it's Christoph Jachmann from APG speaking, just maybe to clarify something and manage the expectations. The allocation part in the intraday is in responsibility of SIDC. Also the development of developing flow-based continuous trading. So this is not really in the scope of core TSOs. Of course, we need to make sure that the interface is working, the process and technical interfaces. And so I would suggest to have the discussions on how the allocation and flow-based would work, have this under the SIDC umbrella. And I would also, let's say, at least from my perspective, it's maybe also still a bit early to start this discussion. The developments are still ongoing there. That's what I can say. But I think more information is, of course, available on SIDC side. And yeah, I think we should try to limit our discussions here in core on the capacity calculation side.
Ruud, maybe then what we could do is, as a follow-up of this meeting and on behalf of the CCG, is forward the question to SIDC and suggest them either to, I don't know, to come at the next meeting for explaining or to organize a separate call. I think on my side it's completely neutral as long as we have the information when it's available.
Hélène, if I may, this is Jérôme, the other Jérôme here. I would pay attention. Here we're talking about flow-based capacity allocation. This would be a choice specific to the core region. Plus, there is no XBIT/SIDC forum at the moment. So yes, we can get information from the project, but this is the place where this is discussed here. The core, this part is about intraday capacity calculation and allocation. There would be a specific mode of allocation for core, though it doesn't look like it's flow-based capacity allocation from what we've heard so far. So indeed, definitely more info is required as soon as more details on the plan are developed. But yeah, this forum is where this conversation should happen if it's specific to core.
Just really to repeat myself maybe, but maybe I can follow, that you say it's specific to core, but it is not fully. The allocation is under the responsibility of SIDC, and also in the past SIDC or XBIT project has informed market participants in specific events and fora. So I think you can be sure that when such new developments are approaching, that the colleagues there will get in touch with you. And that's just really to not have the wrong expectations, I think.
Yeah, so, sorry, I
kept in mind. Yeah,
I was on mute when I was saying something. So, but yes, we should put the things where they should be. Although, of course, there's some kind of gap in information, and we noticed that. So maybe indeed, Hélène, it is good to coordinate with SIDC and see how we can tackle this the best way.
Okay.
Yeah, just if I may, so I understand, there is no all details, but my initial question was, is the goal to have flow-based continuous allocation for the continuous market? It was really my initial question, if it is a goal or not. But yeah, we can discuss on next CCG.
So if I can step in, Benjamin speaking. So yes, it is the goal, and so this is what is foreseen. I just want to support mostly what Christophe said and the way forward that was identified. So we are all in the core region for good stakeholder involvement, and this forum, this core CCG, is one of the prominent aspect of it. That being said, it's not our ambition to cover all the topics related to capacity calculation, capacity allocation, and the other processes, for instance, WOSC. So we are willing to mirror in the CCG the obligation that are lying on us. And so, yeah, there is a missing forum for involving market parties for the allocation part. And maybe that's a point we can indeed identify. I think the MESC meeting could be a good place to highlight this need if you feel this is the case. But I would limit here the communication to really all tasks as core TSOs and core NEMOs for the topics that are relevant. And maybe some high-level information on other processes just for the comprehensiveness of the information, but not dig into, for instance, the detailed design on how continuous allocation will work with flow-based.
Well, then I suggest with Ruud to take a follow-up from this. We will obviously send a request to have more information to SIDC. And Ruud, I will discuss with you, but what we can always do is also report to the MESC that there is a need for such a discussion.
Exactly, yeah.
Whether this should be treated in the MESC or, as far as I understood, if it's a core-only topic, see what we can do, a specific meeting or whatever, but where all this audience is invited, plus SIDC responsible people. So be it integrated in this meeting or just after or just before, for me it's not really important, but making sure that all the members of this meeting have the information, because I get...
Exactly, and also that the right people are there to
exactly.
that can speak with a mandate indeed.
Yeah, so if for formality reason it cannot be called core consultative group, let's say it's a prolongation or whatever meeting, but let's make sure the right people are around the table and find a pragmatic way to organize that in under the umbrella of this one or whatever.
Yeah.
But indeed, then let's contact responsible people from SIDC and report to MESC that there is a missing forum.
Right. Any other remarks or questions to Wesley? Then I propose to go to the next subject that has the same kind of discussion, I think, whether it would fit or not in this core forum. Indeed, core is about the implementation of the legal framework in the capacity calculation region. But on the other hand, it is good to see what kind of developments are there, are appreciated, and what are also expectations. So I'm not sure, Helene.
Yeah, so I will just do a very small introduction and then give the floor to Jérôme. So thank you, Ruud. And so when we prepared this meeting together, we thought it was interesting to share our feedback from the recent development on intraday. So to not only complain when things are not going well, but also to share our feedback on improvements. You will see, I don't want to spoil Jérôme's presentation, but it's mainly positive feedback with, of course, always some suggestions for going further. So this has been prepared by IFET, and I will give the floor to Jérôme. So Jérôme, floor is yours.
Many thanks, Hélène. So indeed, we're going to talk here about recent development in the intraday market, especially the introduction of smaller granularity products. So not sure anymore whether this is fully in the scope of this discussion group, but I'll be short. Just small disclaimer. So this is a survey that we ran through our members. It doesn't represent an IFET position, but just an overview of the feeling of market participants that are members of IFET on the introduction of small granularity products. So if we go to the next slide, just a quick snapshot of the different things we asked our members. So whether they find those short granularity products useful in question 1, how much do they trade of those small granularity products versus hourly products. Third question was around the liquidity effects of the switch to such short granularity products in CWE, and the way forward for the rest of the core region. So generally, there's rather broad satisfaction with the introduction of small granularity products and a significant use of those products, which was even surprising to me, I must admit, considering that those short granularity products continue to coexist with hourly products, but we see that a large number of the respondents do use those products almost exclusively or for a vast majority of their trades. And in terms of effects on liquidity, generally the market participants have observed stable liquidity on hourly products, and of course an increase of liquidity on such small granularity products, which now can be traded not only on local intraday markets but also across borders. Now, the question where there's a little bit more debate is what to do next in terms of implementation of smaller granularity products at core borders. And it's a little bit divided half-half between people who say do it as soon as you can, and another portion of our membership who says let's just wait until we have core intraday capacity calculation in place, or basically the core intraday CCM live at the core borders. So there are no real clear cut from our members, and we will inquire the question internally whether we as EFET have a recommendation to make in that regard. And finally, on the last slide, a few quick recommendations. We asked members, if you can go to the next slide, Sarah Luca. We asked our members if they had suggestions going further, and most of the suggestions relate to actual positions that we have at EFET around like speeding up the implementation of cross-product matching for products of different granularities in intraday. And this they still perceive this as important despite the rather good functioning of the introduction of small granularity products in CWE, but also being able to trade close to real time with shared order books all the way to local intraday gate closure. So in terms of general overview of our survey, that's it from my side. I'm happy to take questions if any, or maybe Hélène, you want to directly follow up with comments on your side.
Are there any questions for Jérôme at this moment? If not, then Hélène, please.
Yeah, I think not much to add on. I think so. As Jérôme said, globally we see a positive evolution with moving to shorter granularity. Of course, the cross-product matching will be very important, and we know it's on a high priority place at intraday project level. And so I think we would encourage to continue to identify and implement quick wins, possibly on other borders, because it's really, I mean, improving globally the efficiency of the intraday market, and so at the end of the day, good for the overall welfare.
Did you want to share your
No, we have put them. So in addition, we
Okay,
also prepared a few slides from my colleagues from NG. But overall, it's very similar to the presentation of Jérôme. So we agreed that we would only present one of them to not say twice the same thing. But you can see if you want or feedback, and if there are other market participants now in this call that are happy to share some feedback even without formal slides, it's of course welcome. So I don't know if there are additional messages or people willing to share anything on intraday improvements. Or if there are questions from the TSOs. Otherwise,
but then I think this is also I think a topic that should fit in the action point we have to discuss with SDIC to see whether there's some kind of framework where we can deal with these kind of issues that are not related to the pure legal implementation of the core CCR. But obviously have an impact on the market and a positive impact on the market.
Yeah. Okay, let's take that point indeed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Jérôme and Hélène.
You're welcome. So I guess we can continue with the next topic then.
Yeah. Let me see. That's the ROSC topic. Philip, are you there to share with us the status and the expectations on ROSC?
I am here, and I hope you can hear me.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, then. Good afternoon. My name is Philip Schäfer from Amprion, and I will give you an insight on the regional operational security analysis, which is next to the capacity calculation process, also a process which is obliged to us to develop in the core CCR. This regional operational security analysis, shortly ROSC, has one major part. This is a remedial action optimization, the RAO, and with the help of this, we want to achieve the goal that we have a core-wide identification of the most effective and economically efficient remedial actions derived. For that, we have some principles, which are, among others, that the RAO shall aim to perform to ensure this economic efficiency by minimizing the estimated incurred costs of the remedial actions, and for the efficiency, also the impact of the remedial actions on the congestions are considered. Furthermore, the remedial action optimization shall be performed by consideration of all available remedial actions in core, and wherever it is possible, this identification shall be in a coordinated way. Only in case time would be not sufficient, for example, if there is an unplanned unavailability on short notice of power plants or of grid elements, there might be exceptions where we cannot coordinate with all the core TSOs, but in the normal regular process will be all remedial actions are coordinated. And furthermore, the RAO shall also ensure that the energy balance is respected. We think with this goals and with these principles, we can reach a fair solution on a level playing field for all parties, and that then no national remedial actions will discriminate foreign actions anymore, at least on core level here. Of course, for the coordination between 16 TSOs in core, we must rely on the firm provision of input data, what especially is related to the estimated availability and the potential of remedial actions, concretely also the redispatching. Otherwise, of course, this risk of uncoordinated actions increases because then there is not enough time to coordinate under all conditions. Furthermore, it has to be said that we are right at the beginning of the implementation of this methodology, and there are still some main challenges we are still facing. For example, how to deal with also non-cost remedial actions which are not superposable, like topological measures in this global optimization, or how we also can configure the inter-CCR coordination, which is also necessary and required by the CSAM to coordinate also here with other CCRs. I propose we go on. Yeah, thanks. Maybe you can switch a bit forward. I think there is an animation which was not expected here. Sorry for that. Yeah, thanks.
Jerome, sorry, Philip. Jerome,
yeah?
You have a question now?
Yeah,
course,
just a quick question on the previous slide, Philip. When you talk about the goals and principle, then thanks, they're clear, at least in their principle, that they're supposed to ensure a fair solution and ensuring a level playing field for all parties. When you talk about all parties here, I assume you talk about the TSOs, considering that the remuneration rules for remedial actions are different from country to country for asset owners, right? So all parties refer to TSOs here.
I think that this is definitely for TSOs, but I would also assume that this is somehow for the owner of the remedial actions, that this is also on a level playing field, at least regarding the activation or the determination of remedial actions, as said, national remedial actions will not be preferred by maybe national TSOs, but there will always be this global solution that all also owners of remedial actions can participate in.
Okay, in that sense, in terms of access, yes. But I assume that if your RAO is based on some kind of merit order between the available remedial actions, then the prices that fit into this merit order are set very differently from country to country. So if you want real level playing field, you need to push on your side for possible review or alignment of compensation or remuneration schemes for remedial actions. But this may be a little bit outside the scope of this meeting, but it's maybe something to keep in mind when we talk about level playing field here.
Of course, yeah, we are considering here the merit order. You're right, and try to have an economically most efficient solution over the core region. But of course, if there are national rules or restrictions, then that's something else where we have probably not so much influence here. To be considered.
Guillaume, you also have a question, Guillaume Maas?
Yes, thanks, Philippe. I'm not quite understanding the principle of a superposable remedial action or non-superposable remedial action. Can you elaborate a bit on that point?
Yes, I can try. The idea is that we use here a linear optimizer where the where every remedial action is somehow modeled as a linear has a linear impact. For example, that we can, for example, remedial actions like redispatching shift megawatt to megawatt, and that there is always a linear behavior here. But for some remedial actions, like topological remedial actions, that's not the case. So that you can only switch on or switch off, and this cannot be then superposed at the end, you know, for the solution. That was meant here with this addition. And so it's only about the topological remedial actions, which has to be considered in a different way, where we are still searching for solutions, how this can be best made in this global optimization.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm not sure I fully understand, to be honest, because, for example, you might change a PST tab on one PST and then at the same time changing the PST tab of another PST. So to me, it's superposable, but maybe I did not get the principle of.
Yeah, that's maybe because we would not assume that a PST is a topological remedial action here. That's also superposable, the PST. So topological remedial actions are only the switching of maybe bus bars or of lines or something like this.
Okay, but even if you change, I don't know, the configuration of a bus bar or whatever it is, I don't understand the issue, but maybe it will be described later on, or you might have the chance in another meeting to describe it a bit more in detail, because to me it's not clear. Sorry for that.
No problem. Then I propose that we take this with us and maybe prepare a small presentation for the next CG meeting.
Yeah, I'll put it down, Philip. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks a lot. In the final version of the core ROSC implementation, this is the so-called second version, which is planned for the go live in 2025. There will be several coordinated regional operational security assessments, so-called CROSAs, where we coordinate and determine the remedial actions together in core. Concretely, there will be one CROSA in day ahead, which starts at 18 o'clock in the day before, and then 3 intraday CROSAs during the day at midnight, and then at 8 and 16 o'clock. If there is no possibility to wait for the next CROSA, for example, due to, as said, unavailability of grid elements or power plants or something which happens quite urgently, then there will be this fast activation process where the coordination is then reduced to the TSOs which are really concerned by the congestions and by the remedial actions which are applied. On the flowchart below, you can see a bit the process here on the example of the day ahead CROSA. Starting with after an input preparation, where we take the IGMs together and also gather the remedial action potential, which is then also partly derived from the market, as this is also the redispatching potential here. We doing with the IGMs first the CGM merging, and then calculates first the security assessment, so without determination of remedial actions, and then start with this remedial action optimization, the RAO, which is an iterative process together with the so-called remedial action coordination. So we first do a calculation of the remedial actions, which are the most efficient and most effective ones, and then have also the possibility for TSOs to have local assessments if these remedial actions are possible, feasible, also regarding maybe other constraints which are not displayed in the remedial action optimization, and have then the possibility for TSOs to also reject certain remedial actions, and then start again with the remedial action optimization and do this until the solution is somehow mature enough. After that, there will be also a second run in day ahead, which is then reserved for this inter-CCR coordination, where we also coordinate remedial actions with other CCRs. At the end, there will be then a final validation session where all remedial actions are validated. After the CROSA, the agreed remedial actions, for which the TSOs agreed that they cannot be or that their activation cannot be postponed because there are specific activation constraints, like, for example, the activation time. These remedial actions will be bindingly ordered and then also be implemented as activated remedial actions, or the request for their activation will be sent to the owner of this remedial action. So, but only if they cannot be postponed. Otherwise, this ordering of remedial actions will be made in the next closure, in the latest closure possible during the intraday closures. Yeah, I think there's one question.
Jérôme, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I have a question around the timings. So I understand that the close-out is performed during, or after the intraday time frame. So starting at 6 p.m. D-1 to end at 10 p.m. D-1. So how does that work with like providing good information for the intraday market, knowing that the intraday market opens at 3 p.m. D-1 or should be open at 3 p.m. D-1, and that you will have a planned calculation of capacity at that point. So how does it all fit in? Can you explain it a little bit more? And also the 3 following close-outs during the intraday, what is it used for, and how does it coincide with the different intraday capacity calculation processes?
Yeah, I think that's, as Wesley also said before, quite a challenge here to arrange this with the intraday capacity calculation process, as this is also partly overlapping. At least for the day ahead closer here. Yeah, we're still searching for solutions here. I think that's not mature enough, these solutions, to present them here, but maybe this is also something we can take with us and discuss this in one of the next CG meetings when we have better analyzed this and have some solutions for that. Sorry for that maybe insufficient answer, but it's really a big challenge. You're right here.
All right, it's fine. But yeah, like as soon as you have more information on how, it's more also like from our side, understanding what effect that would have possibly on intraday cross-zonal capacities. So I assume since it's somehow a coordination of remedial actions throughout the region, then it does have an impact on cross-zonal capacities. So understanding how that fits together, how this is taken into account in the different recalculation, let us know as soon as you can say more.
Yeah. What we can say is that we will take this into account in the intraday capacity calculation, the results of the ROSC. The only question is a bit how we can do this with these overlapping processes. And so we, for example, with this day ahead closer, we somehow ensure then the result of the day ahead capacity calculation, which is in the day ahead capacity calculation first made with MinRAMs and maybe other virtual capacities like LTA inclusion. But in this closer, we somehow ensure this virtual capacities with real remedial actions, and of course it would be reasonable to take this result then also in this ensuring of remedial of the grid situation into account in the intraday capacity calculation. What is planned here also.
Is that covering your question enough for the moment, Jérôme?
Sure, as long as we get more information on the interaction, like at a later stage when things are clearer.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, then I propose we go on. Maybe with the next slide. Thanks a lot. Yeah, after the operational process of ROSC has finished, there is also then an ex post offline process where the ordered remedial actions of these closures or of the fast activation processes are applied to a cost sharing between the core TSOs. Yeah, in the flowchart below, there can be seen a bit how that works on a very high level. We decompose the flow on the lines to certain parts, like for example, what are internal flows, what are flows from loop flows or from transit flows, and then also do a mapping of the remedial actions to that flows, and at the end this can then lead to a cost distribution among the core TSOs, and afterwards also of course settlement and invoicing. There was one maybe major challenge here. What happens with cost deviations? Because in the RAW and the CROSA we use of course only estimated incurred costs. But these costs can still deviate from the final costs. And here the conclusion is that these deviations of costs will be then again part of the cost sharing or subject to the cost sharing. But there is one restriction, that core TSOs and RSCs shall monitor those deviations in costs, and if there are systematic deviations, then it is also possible that TSOs have also the right to reject those systematical deviations to be included in the cost sharing, and then have to bear the costs themselves, or the requester have to pay them. Okay, if there are no questions on this, I propose we go on a bit with what has been done already and what will be done in the near future and in the next time. So as said, these ROSC, or the CROSA, Coordinated Regional Operation Security Assessment, and this fast activation process are covered in this in the ROSC methodology, which is referred to as SOGL 76, and the cost sharing is governed by the cost sharing methodology, which refers to CACAN 74. In 2017, we started with the development of these methodologies, and only some time ago, ACER approved those methodologies in the end of 2020, so that we can now start, or have started recently, with the implementation of those methodologies. Yeah, I think there's one question, Jérôme.
Yeah, thank you again. So you mentioned all those methodologies, their approvals, etc. It's no secret that many TSOs, sometimes NRAs, have appealed some or all of those methodology decisions. So what are your expectations in terms of implementation, timelines, etc.?
Yeah, we come to this on a later slide. What is our implementation plan for those methodologies? Of course, appeals can have an impact on this, especially if they would be successful. but nevertheless, we do not wait for the result of this appeals, but start already with developing. Must probably or maybe later then adapt it again. Yeah, so we can see later the implementation plan. Some first key milestones are shown here already. So we had to submit such an detailed implementation plan also to the NRAs and ACER in the beginning of this month. Show you later what was the outcome here. And then there are 3 really key milestones. In June 2023, the first version of the ROSC must be developed and implemented and also put into operation. And at the same time, also the cost-sharing solution between the core TSOs must be go live. The final second version of ROSC is then foreseen for 2025. Yeah, already during the ACER referral to that methodologies, TSOs have underlined that the implementation timeline is, especially for this first version in 2023, is very challenging because it already requires quite a lot of the solution. So we need for that first version already a RAW, a remedial action optimization, which is also required for the cost sharing at the end. It's around 70 to 80% of the final solution which has to be fulfilled already with the first version. So we tried as TSOs to assess the implementation steps in a realistic planning, and that can be seen on the next slide. Or the next slides. So one of the major challenges is that this RAW, this remedial action optimizer, on this big parameter with lots of specific features for all the core TSOs, is somehow on the critical path for the development here or for the implementation. And this is significantly increasing also the delay in the estimation regarding the official deadlines. Nevertheless, the realistic roadmap respects the objectives to be compliant with the ROSC methodology, and it implements a reliable solution for operations in the shortest possible time frame. I would also like to emphasize here that also TSOs are highly interested in a fast implementation and operation of the ROSC due to the increasing challenges in our grids. For example, the growth of renewables or general necessity for more flexibility in choosing remedial actions, especially also from cross-border. But on the other side, on the other hand, we need robust processes for our operations. This ROSC process is somehow the basis also for our task to fulfill the grid security. And furthermore, maybe that we want to, due to efficiency reasons, not develop 2 separate versions for V1 and version V2, but build a minimal viable solution for V1, which can then be further developed to the final version V2. But now have a look on the roadmap itself. You can see here what are the milestones and the phases of the implementation. You can see that the first version is planned to be go live in April 2024, which is a delay of around 10 months to the official deadline. and also yeah, it's the same. Yeah, at the same time also the cost sharing will go live. There is a small gap because we need to wait then for the final costs for the first day after ROSC has gone live. So there is the first cost sharing will then be 2 months later, but all costs from all ROSC runs will be distributed to the core TSOs via the cost sharing methodology. So how to reach this go live? We already started with defining business requirements and the business process, planning to finalize this until mid of 2021. And then in the red box below, we see the activities under the responsibility of the RSCs. Already in parallel to the design of the requirements, the RSC starts with the preparation of the procurement of the tools by transferring the requirements into tendering documents and start a first prior call to scan the market. And then this procurement phase itself is planned for 6 months, including a vendor selection. Yeah, this is according to our experience with such big projects here. After the selection of the vendor, the development starts, where we expect 18 months, including the specifications. Of course, there are several unknown factors here. For example, how far are existing tools at the vendor side already advanced, or if there are further complications. So this 18 months is more or less an estimation here. But to speed up things, TSOs will already start with an early experimentation already with the beginning of the development phase. After the handover of the tools to the TSOs, the validation and parallel run starts. For the parallel run, there is 3 months foreseen. We can, of course, only go into operation if the tools are robust enough. But yeah, due to our expectation, that could be reached in this short period. So then in April 2024, we foresee the go live of the first ROSC version. In parallel, then the development of the ROSC v2 starts, which is then expected in 2025. Yeah, so far regarding our plans, are there any questions on this?
Doesn't look like it. So it's time for the summary.
Yes, okay. Yeah, all these methodologies, ROSC, redispatching, counter-threading according to CSEM 35, and also the cost-sharing methodology have been defined and approved in 2020 by ACER decisions. The goal of these methodologies is to provide a leveling playing field for remedial actions by applying a coordinated approach in the core CCR to determine remedial actions. And as shown, the realistic implementation plan cannot meet both deadlines together. So we foresee a go live of ROSC version 1 and the cost sharing for 2024, and the final ROSC version then in 2025. Maybe I forgot a bit what is the difference between ROSC v1 and v2, and we can repeat this in the summary a bit. So the ROSC version v1 is only covering day ahead. So intraday will only be then the closures for intraday coordinated processes will only be applied in ROSC version v2. And what is also not part of the ROSC version v1 is a optimization of topological remedial actions within the global optimization. That was the challenge on the first slide, that this is a non-superposable remedial action, and it's more difficult to implement this in the global optimization. Therefore, we need get a bit more time with version v2. Yeah, and
thank you, Philip. Are there any questions, remarks? Guillaume, you were first.
Yes, thanks, Philippe. Just want to come back on Jerome's remark regarding the interplay between the CROSA process, which seems to be a very elaborated process and a very complicated one, eventually leading to better better security in the grid. But at the same time, I have the feeling that this might also have an impact on the intraday capacity that is given to the market. So today in CWE we have the increase-decrease process. It's already that, and it's working. So it means that we have the leftovers plus an extra capacity when it's possible. But with the CROSA, I have the feeling that this process is so complicated and will require so much resources from the operators at the TSO side that you might at the same time a bit forget to also have a look, I would say, at extra capacity for the intraday market. It's just a fear that I have and that I wanted to share. Yeah, thank you.
But Guillaume, what exactly do you mean? The complexity of CROSA will hamper the operational phase, or how do you see that?
I hope it will not hamper the operational phases, but I'm just saying that it will require resources. First in terms of development now and until 2023 and then 2025, but also when it will be live in real time and during the day-ahead process, it will require resources from the operators. And in both phases, so being the development and the operational phases, I just wanted to make sure that we don't forget also to look at the intraday capacity calculation as it was presented during the last presentation. Yeah. Just a overall remark, and just saying also that I'm supporting what Jerome was saying at the beginning of this presentation. So just for the record, I would say. Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe to react a bit on it, because you mentioned the operators. At least from my experience from Amprion, we have of course two different operators, or different groups of operators. One group is operating this security analysis, and the other one is operating the capacity process. And for both are in that case resources there. Of course, I can only speak here for Amprion. That is something we have also to respect for other TSOs. That's correct.
Okay, Aurélien.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. A point that is still not completely clear to me is if and how you will consider counter trading in this ROSC process. Because costly remedial actions are supposed to encompass redispatching and counter trading, and I have the impression that in practice the focus is put mainly, if not only, on redispatching, and I think that this is actually questionable, because counter trading also has some merits. The first one is that it gives a price signal to the market, which is not the case for dispatching, which is performed outside of the market. Another aspect is that concerning the potential lack of remedial actions we talked about previously in relation with the application of corrective actions at the validation phase in the capacity calculation. It's something that should not happen with counter trading if it's performed early enough. For example, at the beginning of the afternoon, for example, in the first intraday auction, the introduction of this auction could be an opportunity of doing that. What the market has done 1 or 2 hours before can be undone at this point of time, and there is no reason why there should be a limitation and the lack of counter trading potential. So maybe this approach is not relevant for congestions which are uncertain and for which there is an interest in waiting to see whether they materialize indeed, but for those congestion which are almost certain right from the beginning because they just result from the application, for example, of the 70% threshold, which leads to deliberately give more capacity than what is feasible. In my view, there would be an interest in using counter trading, and from what I hear in this first process, it doesn't seem to be foreseen. So I'm interested in having your views about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry that I might forget sometimes to mention counter trading when talking about remedial actions here. We also, of course, foresee the remedial action counter trading in the remedial action optimization. And as a degree of freedom there, of course, we are set on the right beginning of the also of the definition of requirements and how something can work together and how it is implemented. But for sure, we also consider set the counter trading option here. That can be, the technical implementation is feasible. That we are at the moment investigating. Yeah, the other question is a bit when will the optimizer choose such counter trading? Therefore, we also need maybe some more experience here to work with this. But you're right, especially in those cases where the remedial action potential or the redispatching potential is if there is no redispatch potential left anymore for congestions, then especially in that case, the counter trading is a valid option here. Definitely.
Okay, thank you. Interesting.
Aurelia, could I ask a clarification? Are you suggesting that the counter trade would be the preferred option or the first option to use instead of redispatch, or?
I would say it depends on the kind of congestion you want to handle, and if we are talking of the congestion which is mechanically induced by the 70% threshold, for example, compared to effective counterfactual capacity calculation without this 70% threshold, I think yes, it's a clever solution to apply counter trading in that case, because you don't have really an interest to wait more. You know from the beginning that you have allocated too much. You can correct that as early as possible with the advantages of counter trading I mentioned. For the rest of congestion management, then of course it may be more clever to have another approach to wait. And to wait more, maybe until the last moment, and use redispatching. So I think having a separated approach, depending on what you want to handle, would be interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other remarks? If not, then it seems that we are going early to the end of the meeting.
So indeed, I think we can move to the AOB. First, is there any topic, any question, any point you would like to put at the agenda? Enfin, the discussion point now, I mean, under any other business? Aurélien, you still have your hand raised? Ah, okay, it's
no, sorry.
Okay, okay. So then, Ruud, I think we can give you back the floor for the conclusions.
Yeah, what I would like to go through the action points basically, but we've noticed I don't think we should repeat everything. But if I look to my notes here, so this is a preliminary list, so to say. We concluded in the parallel run that no, that was the fallback, that the sort of the aim is to have the chosen option in the testing at the starting of July. So that is the aim, but not really sure whether it is feasible. On the external parallel run.
If I may, on this point, making sure that the information on the final choice is communicated to the market.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Then on the external parallel run,
there was a question from Olivier on the ballast formula to be answered.
Yeah. That's also noted, and there will be no recalculation, so that's clear. And there's a question to be investigated whether the LTA domain can be somehow shared. And then on the publication tool, there are some problems with the tool right now, and Zhao is working on that. So that's from that side. Then we have the discussion on transparency, and actually this goes together, I think, with the discussion on the static grid model, where we decided to set up a framework for a process to improve on transparency. So that's an extra point for us, Helene.
Yes, and I think in addition, there was a point from Guillaume on having a feedback afterwards, a report. Let me check. I think we mentioned it was in the chat. I'm just going back to the chat, but my computer is very slow. Tac, just a second. Yes, to foresee, so a report on the survey, so that market participants can understand why some requests cannot be part of the shared data.
Yeah.
Like the generation and load data was mentioned during the meeting.
Right, right. Then we had the intraday discussion, and I think that the main action point is, highlight the fact that we have some kind of void on stakeholder involvement in the intraday, and actually also the day ahead allocation side. So we I think that would be good to discuss further and see how we can initiate some kind of solution for that on the core level.
Yeah.
Then ROSC, there were some questions that needed further clarification, and perhaps in a later stage, I think. So the question about the superposable grid elements is one thing, an explanation around that. Then there's also some issues that are not mature enough yet to discuss. But what is it? The effect on the intraday cross-handle capacity of CROSA. I think we have to come back on these issues when they are more mature. So that was for me the main.
That's also aligned with what
takeaways
during the meeting. So I hope we did not forget any action, but seems to me.
And maybe regarding next CTG meetings, I think it would be good to have a short one just before the go live of the parallel run, so end of June possibly, to see and discuss what will be in the parallel run. Did we actually meet all our expectations and to manage the input and the expectations about this parallel run. And then maybe in fall, October perhaps, we should organize a larger one again, because then most probably we have more things that are at stake, more developments, and we can have a session like this, a full day session, and perhaps even a physical session.
Yeah, we can dream. Okay.
Would that be all right? Does anybody have any remarks on these plans, or if not, then from my side, I would thank everybody for joining and wish you all a very nice rest of the day.
Thank you, and thank you to the TSOs for the good preparation, and to all the participants for the participation today, and wishing you as well a very good end of day.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thanks for the good meeting. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.